Welcome back to the Conservative Cat Show, where the truth has claws and common sense hasn't been evicted yet. Hey, good morning. If you live in Illinois, give me some time. They're going to figure out a way to evict common sense here probably soon, or tax common sense if you've got it. Give it time. Just give it time. Give them some time. They'll probably find a way to tax common sense or evict you of your common sense. We are going to be talking about how they're draining your bank account today, and how U-Hauls are driving to the border of Illinois, and for sale signs are practically the state flower nowadays. Uh, property taxes. We're going to be talking about property taxes and how they're draining your bank accounts this morning. We are now this state, the top state in the nation for property taxes. A lawmaker is saying that runaway property tax rates are driving a mass exodus out of the state. So we are going to be chatting a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to be talking about how Illinois is blaming, the state is blaming Donald Trump for this crazy energy rate hike. And a lot of people have been talking about how it's CEJA, which it is CEJA, the Climate Equitable Jobs Act, right, which transitioned a lot of our, or some of our grid from natural gas, coal, reliable energy to wind and solar. Yes, that is part of the problem, but there is a lot of mandates on these utility companies who are, ripe with corruption as well. They are in the pockets. Like, let's not forget, ComEd bribed Michael Madigan, the former House Speaker, and Michael Madigan went to jail for that. We can't forget that. But there's also another piece to this. There's mandates out there, and energy should be compassionate, but it should be rooted in truth. And that's how energy policy, and unfortunately, here in the state of Illinois, we don't have Jesus followers. That's the problem. We don't have people who love Jesus, love God, and fear God more than utility companies or these green energy global investors, or we don't have people in office like that who fear God more than those elitists and the rich people. Okay. So energy policy should be compassionate, but it also needs to be rooted in truth. So if you don't pay your bills, you need your energy shut off. That is the way it should go. Okay. Now, I wasn't totally against in the severe cold prohibiting shutoffs. I'm not completely against that, but it's turned into a bit of a mountain from a molehill from that. Okay. Pretty much all year round, these gas companies and energy companies cannot shut the energy off, cannot shut your utilities off, your gas during the hot months and the cold months. Okay. And like the durations are pretty long. Like it's pretty much all year round. They can't shut off your power. Okay. If you don't pay your bill. So if that's the case, then of course our bills are going to be higher, very, very high across the board. It's because we're paying for everybody who isn't paying their bill. And this is a new mandate signed into law by Governor J.B. Pritzker as of 2023. And I feel like a lot of us, yes, it is the green energy policies. Yes, it is the wind and the solar. But you'd be surprised. So they want you to think that we are transitioning to wind and solar. It doesn't work at all. Wind and solar, especially here in the state of Illinois, solar. Like the months of January, February, like the sun is not shining and is not capable of keeping up with the grid demand. Okay. And yes, there are mandates that say, hey, power companies, you have to transition. We have to transition our grid to wind and solar. There are those mandates, but you'd be shocked that a lot of these companies are not going to be listening to those mandates. Why? Because it's not possible. Like quite literally, it's impossible to transition to 2045, I think is the goal, to wind and solar, because it quite literally doesn't work. So you'd be shocked to find out that a lot of these companies, they're actually not as pro wind and solar, or they're not doing this transition to the extent that you think that they might be. They are mandated to transition, but I think a lot of the bill, the increase in the bill, is because there's people out there, and by people I mean probably more so Chicago, they're not paying their energy bills. Okay, and they're not paying their energy bills, but yet they're still getting that service. So somebody has to pay for that service for them. And who is that going to be? That's going to be you and I. The people who do pay their bills, we're going to pay it. And we're going to pay it in the form of a surcharge. So look at your energy bill with me today. If you've got it in your desk drawer, pull it out. Look at your energy bill and let me know in the comments section the various surcharges and how much the surcharges total up to. And when I say surcharge, not the kilowatts or whatever wattage, price per wattage, okay? I am not interested in that. Yes, that is going to go up, and I think that a lot of that has to do with CEJA mandates. But I think where people are getting hit the hardest with these energy bills are actually in the surcharges. And those surcharges, they should be broken out by line item. And one of those line items should be, hey, this law where we can't shut off people's power during X amount of months. Now, I forget the timeline, but it's like 4 months in the summer and it's like 4 months in the winter. So it's like, okay, that's 8 months out of the year. Like that's pretty much the entire year where somebody can go without paying their electric bill and not have a shut off. So first, I do want to get to the property taxes. I appreciate you being here. Go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel, send me a super chat or head on over to patriotpumpenergy.com. Buy your bottle of premium pre-workout today. Patriot Pump Energy, it's clean energy. There are no artificial colors in it. Use the promo code ConservativeCat for a $10 discount. That is the best promo code out there. And it's for you guys only. Okay, so it's an exclusive offer we give Conservative Cat listeners. So let's get to the latest data. The latest data shows that we have the highest property taxes in the nation. The entire country. Congratulations, Springfield. You've officially made New Jersey look like a tax haven. State Representative Dan Ugasti, who I thought was going to run for governor. I was told that he's not going to be running for governor, which kind of sucks because I really don't like our choices right now. I'm hoping that Ted Dabrowski enters the race. There's been rumors that either he or Aaron Del Mar will enter the race. I like those choices, those options better than the ones that we currently have. His House Bill 9, this is Dan Ugasti, would actually provide relief. And like I said, I'm not a total Dan Ugasti. Like when I say I prefer certain candidates, it doesn't mean that I'm all in. Okay, I will let you know when I'm all in on a candidate. Okay, Dan Ugasti, there's things that he's voted on that I'm not like a particular fan of. This, however, I like House Bill 9. I think that there's more that we could do for property tax relief, such as eliminate it completely because it's unconstitutional. But I like House Bill 9. I think that this is a realistic way of providing property tax relief for taxpayers. And I think that it's realistic without jacking up state taxes. So his House Bill 9, I'm going to break it down because it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. What we're going to have to do in order for this thing to work is actually cut our expenses. And these pet projects, for example, NASCAR, $5 million on NASCAR, we're going to have to cut things like that. We're going to have to cut the $40 million to House Speaker Chris Welch's district where he built the sport complex. Okay, we're going to have to make some hard cuts. Otherwise, this thing won't work. Okay. So this is a politician, Dan Ugasti, with a plan. And it's a plan that doesn't involve taking more of your money if we do it correctly. And I think somebody ought to check for signs of the apocalypse happening. We have a politician out there who wants to come up with a plan for property tax relief that isn't actually going to cost you more money in the end. Whoa. Hell has froze over. Like this is a sign of the apocalypse. We actually have a politician who gives a damn about people. So the plan, here's what the plan is. and I'm going to put it in plain terms. So the average homeowner in Illinois pays a property tax rate of 1.83%. Okay, 1.83%, which is about $4,584 if you have a $250,000 home. So that is not one-time money. Okay, think about this. This is every single damn year. $4,000, $4,500, $4,500 every single damn year. That is like a second mortgage, folks. Okay, and what do you get for it? You don't get these gold-plated police cars. You don't get Olympic swimming pools in every school. You have what is called a pension liability. Okay, so a lot of your property tax bill is going to the schools, and the schools are crap. Okay, the kids can't perform academically. There sure ain't Olympic-sized pools in every single school. Okay, I would say at best the infrastructure is meh. Okay, in most schools, most Illinois schools. So your property taxes, your tax bill doesn't even go towards like current services. So I'm talking your police cars, I'm talking your, schools and the infrastructure of the schools. We really don't even go towards all that. Really what it's going towards is the promises these politicians made decades ago, back when polyester suits were in style and fiscal responsibility was a punchline. Okay, they made these promises decades ago in back rooms when they were smoking cigars. Okay, so you might not even, I probably wasn't even alive when a lot of these pension promises were made. So Dan Ugasti says the property taxes are the number one reason why people are leaving the state. Yeah, he's right. The last 5 years alone, take a listen to this number, 420,000 people have packed up and left Illinois. Think about this in real terms, okay? That's an entire city. The entire city of Minneapolis just gone. Okay, 420,000 people. That's 500,000 people. Okay. Now I want to talk about this biblically. Okay, and kind of draw a parallel here for those of you who've read the book of Exodus. There's some parallels going on here in the state of Illinois. You know me, I can't help but see these biblical parallels in the news, and that's what this show is all about. Because there's nothing new under the sun. In the book of Exodus, the Israelites, they were groaning about the weight of Pharaoh's oppressive taxes. Okay, I know you guys are going to correct me on that in the comment section. Actually, it was forced labor. Yes, they were groaning about the slavery, Pharaoh's slavery, but the principle was still the same here. Okay, the people cried out for deliverance, and God raised up Moses. Now, here in Illinois, the Pharaoh is in this story is kind of a mix of local politicians, your union bosses, bureaucrats who think that the taxpayer is an ATM, and that's slavery. Okay, we are enslaved to the bureaucrats and the politicians and the union bosses who think that we are just an ATM and we don't have a withdrawal limit. Okay, that they can just keep hitting the withdrawal button. Now, our Moses in this story, for this story's sake and for the parallel sake, we'll say that's Dan Ugasti. Okay, so instead of parting the Red Sea, what he is trying to do is part the Illinois budget from your property tax bill. Okay, so here's the twist. In the biblical story, the people wanted to leave Egypt. They wanted to leave Egypt in Illinois. We're doing it in record numbers, and we're not necessarily wanting to leave Illinois. We're fleeing Illinois to places like Indiana, Tennessee, Texas, Florida. These are states where you can actually earn money and keep that money and still have functioning schools and safe streets. So I know what you're thinking. $4,500 every single year. Where is it going? Because we don't have functioning schools and we don't have safe streets. Okay, and I know what you're thinking. Why am I paying this much money? It's for the bureaucrats, for the politicians, for the unions, for these promises that they made decades ago, the pension promises, their elite pension plans that they made years ago. And they keep trying to fund this pension liability. They know that their pensions are going to dry up. It's for them. It's for the elitist. It's for the people in the public sector who, when they retire, want to be able to make $200,000 a year. Look at the case of Barry Riley. He's the former District 87 superintendent of Bloomington. That's like Central Illinois. I mean, that's an exorbitant salary or exorbitant pension. Okay. And he's not working anymore. It's $200,000. And think about hundreds upon hundreds of Barry Rileys out there seeking a pension of that size. And it's just not sustainable unless we have no withdrawal limit on the taxpayers. And they've caught on to this. That's why they keep raising the property taxes. Okay. So Dan Ugasti's plan is kind of simple here. Okay. I said that it's like separating the Illinois budget from the property tax bill. Okay. So his plan's kind of simple. Have the state take over a big chunk. It's almost like the state. So the state taxpayers, us as a whole, we're going to be paying the property taxes. I know what you're thinking. Wait a second, Kat. We're still on the hook for that because the state isn't in the business of making money. Okay. They take money. So that's still our money going towards the property tax bill. Correct. But it's over a much larger population and you'd have a smaller property tax bill. And you wouldn't be taxed as much. Okay. So you're still going to be paying for it. It's not so much the state's going to be paying for it. You're going to be paying for it, but all of us are going to be paying the property tax bills. Okay. And the only way that this works is if the state of Illinois gets its priorities in check. Okay. So there is a way for this not to work. Okay. If we don't get that in check and then we just balloon the budget even more by taking over the property tax bills. So right now it's at like $55 billion. If we don't make any extreme cuts to that bill or to the budget, then this isn't going to work that great. It could work if we actually prioritize spending. So he says it would save Dan Ugasti $2.8 billion in property taxes this year alone, with a staggering $82.4 billion over 21 years. Okay, now why would Springfield hate this? Why do they hate property tax relief? And he wants to do this without raising state taxes. Okay, there's a possibility that this goes through and they don't do any kind of cuts and then they actually raise state taxes, okay, in order to provide property tax relief. Now, that is something that I foresee happening because your Illinois politicians lack common sense. And we have to make sure that they don't do that. We really need them to prioritize spending. Okay. This would require them to prioritize spending. Okay. Because we don't want to raise state taxes. We want to the state to provide that relief. And you're going to feel it, that relief, because we're divvying out that burden over a lot of people, that property tax burden over a lot of people. So I'm not totally against this, but there's a way to do it. And I have a feeling that if this gets passed, they're not going to do it the way that I want. And I'm going to be really pissed off. But they have to cut waste. You have to say no to pet projects. You have to urge your politicians to not buy shiny new government plans or programs or whatever the hell that they're dreaming up. Okay. We have to urge them to actually cut spending and prioritize spending if this is to work. So more importantly, it would take away, their favorite weapons. That's why they don't like this. It would take away one of their favorite weapons, which is keeping you financially burdened at a local level. So you're too busy to hold them accountable. Okay, that is another reason why Springfield hates this. They want you to be financially burdened because you are so busy trying to work off this, your debt, work off your bills, that you are not holding them accountable. The reason why the Democrats are in such power right now is because they literally, like, at 2:00 on a random Wednesday afternoon, they're probably on jet skis on the lake somewhere. Okay. Your public employees and your public officials, they don't do anything all day other than lobby and dream of ways to make your life a financial hellhole. Okay. So it's public sector versus private sector. It's really not right versus left. It's really good versus evil, and it's all based on that. The crux of this is evil people want to get rich quick. Okay, and people who are Christ followers, people who are biblically devout, they know that getting rich quick is an evil, it's a sin, and that it's not what God had intended for our lives. You work hard, you get payment, and you're honest about that work, okay? These people are in the business of getting rich quick. They're unbiblical people, and that's really what the fight is. It's biblical versus not biblical, Christ followers versus not Christ followers, private sector versus public sector, okay? So high property taxes don't just hurt homeowners. We know small businesses are really affected by this. If you have a small business, this kills you. When you raise the cost of living on people at a local level, people have less to spend locally, okay? And you raise the commercial property taxes, you wind up closing up a lot of small shops. So guess who's left holding the bag? It's the folks who can't leave. Okay, and the burden is just going to get heavier and heavier and heavier for the people who can't leave, whether you have family here or whatever. Okay, and it's like musical chairs, only instead of chairs, it's paying for everybody else's pensions. Okay, so that's really what's going on, and they just rip the chair out from underneath you, and you won't be able to save for a retirement, a 401k, or put money into your retirement. You're going to be caught paying for the guy's retirement who's jet skiing at 2 p.m. on a random Wednesday because he's a public employee and he doesn't really want to do anything. Okay, and he wants to get rich quick. So this isn't just about economics. I want to make that clear. This is spiritual. The Bible says in Proverbs 13:22, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. In Illinois, many families can't leave their house to their kids without, of course, saddling them with this crazy tax bill that they'll never be able to afford. It's not leaving a blessing, it's leaving a burden. Okay, and these people don't care about inheritance. They don't care about following the Bible, the getting rich quick thing. They're all about that. They're all about leaving an inheritance for their children, but it's an inheritance that wasn't come by honestly. And they don't want you to be able to leave an inheritance for your children by doing good, honest work and getting rich slowly, okay, over time. They don't want you to be able to do that. Why? Because they're evil. Okay, and they're just anti-biblical, and they don't want you to follow the word of God. So, this is the satire corner. I was thinking about this morning, and I was like, man, the survival guide to property taxes in Illinois. Okay, here's Springfield's survival guide. They issued this. Number 1, sell your house. You got to put it out on the market, right? Put a for sale sign in the front yard. Step 2, move to a state where you can still afford groceries and still afford a cup of coffee. Because right now, like, we're going to get into the electric bills. Like, you're probably caught between paying for groceries this week and paying your electric bill, because that's how much your electric bill went up. Okay, so you have to, that's step 2, move to a state where you can still afford things. Step 3, mail Springfield a postcard every April 15th with a picture of palm trees. This is the survival guide. Okay, if you want to survive property taxes, really sell your house, go to a state, a red state, a rural county in a red state, and then every single year, get yourself a little postcard with palm trees on it and send it to Springfield. Address it to Springfield and mail it out every April 15th when taxes are due. Okay. So that's your survival guide at this point. Because I don't think Dan Ugassi's bill, House Bill 9, is going to get anywhere. I really don't. Most property tax relief initiatives don't get anywhere. They don't even get out of committee. That's how hell-bent the Democrats are on keeping themselves rich and keeping this model of getting rich quick. For their friends, a lot of times in the public school system. your superintendents, your administrators who are making those exorbitant salaries, but then also later pensions. Oops, spilled my coffee a little bit. Okay, so squirrel. Ugassi's right. The real change comes when the voters actually decide to hold the officials accountable. So we can say House Bill 9 is going to save us. It's not, because it's probably not even going to get called out of, or get out of committee and onto the floor. We can grumble and grumble about taxes, but really the way we change it is election day. We vote people in who are in favor of cutting spending and not just shifting it around. That's the only way. Dan Ugassi. So at first glance, I was a little nervous about Dan Ugassi's bill because it looks like it could be one of those bills where it just kind of shifts around spending, or shifts around, like the state picks up the property tax bill, but we don't cut any real like spending, and it just winds up ballooning the budget even more and raising state taxes, and we're just paying for it in another form. But I think that if executed properly, it's a good bill. Politicians count on you being busy, tired, discouraged to fight back. They count on you being too discouraged to fight back. But remember, even in Illinois, your vote still counts. It matters. So on election day, your local elections, your general elections, your midterms, get out and go vote. At the end of the day, at least you can say, I tried. And believe me, I don't get mad at people anymore. I used to get mad at people who said, oh, it doesn't really matter. My vote doesn't matter. And I don't go out and vote. I used to get like really upset with those types of people here in the state of Illinois, where they say, what's the point? I don't, because far too many times I've voted for people and I get burned. So they go to Springfield and they wind up doing things that I absolutely can't stand. So it feels like every single time I vote, it doesn't even really matter. Because those people wind up getting into Springfield and they wind up they wind up not doing anything I wanted them to do. And then I feel like an idiot with egg on my face. And I get it. I'm really discouraged. And it's hard for me to sit here behind the microphone and say, don't get too discouraged. You have to fight back and you have to keep voting. It's really hard for me to say that because I almost don't feel it. I don't want to be fake. I'll never be fake with you. I'll always be authentic with you and tell you the truth. But, we got to do something. And if we stop doing anything, like if we don't do anything, then we're not going to stay in the fight at all. Right. So that's my outlook, or that's my take on it. Continue to vote. Your vote matters, does. And at least you can say I tried. But I don't get mad at people anymore who say, oh, I don't vote here in the state of Illinois, Kat. I just am too discouraged and I don't think it really counts. I don't get mad at people who say that anymore because I get it. Far too many times I've had votes casted and then they wind up going, and then I look back and I'm like, really? That's the first bill you introduced? Creating a state nut, like quite literally. I think it was I don't know who I voted for, but they went and their first bill was like creating like a state nut or a state bird or something, and I'm just like, this is so gay. Like, I voted for you, I advocated for you, and I told my friends to go vote for you, and then the first thing that you do when you get there is do a stupid little bill like awareness for X disease, or whatever, colitis awareness week or whatever it is. They do that stuff all the time, and it's like so annoying. You're like, really? That's what you're dedicating your time to? Because really, that's all the Republicans can get through anyway, and I don't blame them because they're in the super minority. But it's really frustrating to see your Republican candidates, you vote for these people, and then they get in, and then they do really bogus bills, and you're like, why the hell did we need that? We didn't need that. I need you to go get the property tax lower. All right. Illinois is at crossroads, highest taxes, biggest exodus, shrinking economy, and we need real reform. And that starts with property taxes. One more Bible verse for you. Bible says, Micah 6:8, What does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with your God. I'd add, if you're in Springfield, maybe read that a few times. Okay, read Micah 6:8 before you walk in those doors every single day, before you go into your next session, your next budget session. I want you to read that a few times, because if you act justly, if you love mercy, and if you walk humbly with your God, you wouldn't be raising the property taxes like you are on these people. So I do want to shift gears. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to clean up this spilled coffee. And then we're going to be talking about how ComEd raised your rates 53%. Ameren raised them 47%. Now, a lot of people are saying Republicans are saying that this is the Illinois Clean Jobs Act, or Equitable Jobs Act, CJA, which it is, but it's also other mandates that you have to be aware of. Take it this time, grab your energy bill with me, and we're going to break it down here on the other side. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, where the claws come out and the truth lands hard. I'm your host, Cat. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something that ought to make every Illinois taxpayer's blood boil. You're funding the abortion industry, and the abortion industry is very, very funded by the state of Illinois. So we're going to be zooming in on Illinois. What used to be the land of Lincoln is now the Midwest's abortion sanctuary. Under Governor J.B. Pritzker, Illinois has gone full throttle into becoming what he proudly calls the beacon for reproductive rights. Translation: come one, come all. Have your abortions here, and the taxpayers are going to pick up the tab. In 2019, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed the so-called Reproductive Health Act, making abortion, quote, a fundamental right in Illinois. But that wasn't all. He also repealed the Parental Notification Act for minors getting abortions. So that means little Susie, if she's 12 years old, she doesn't need her parents' permission to go get an abortion. Your 13-year-old daughter can get an abortion in Illinois, even without you knowing. And while Illinois families are struggling with inflation, property taxes, and rising crime, guess where your tax dollars are going? The last few years, just tens of millions of dollars of Illinois taxpayer dollars have gone to Planned Parenthood in just a few years, tens of millions of dollars. And they're not going to just fund the procedure itself. They're paying for out-of-state women to come here and abort their babies. It includes transportation, lodging costs, and logistical support, whatever the hell that means. I'm probably paying for some woman to get a McDonald's sandwich while she's here in the state. And literally, we're running a state-sponsored abortion tourism business. That's what we're doing here in the state. And let's not forget Planned Parenthood CEO salaries. Over $670,000 for Alexis McGill Johnson. Regional directors, they make about like six figures too. So your paycheck is shrinking, their paycheck is growing, and your roads have potholes, but Planned Parenthood thriving. Pritzker loves to pose as a champion for women, but let's be honest, this isn't even about ideology. It's about power and money. He's not protecting women. He's protecting Planned Parenthood's bottom line and all of these people raking in that CEO cash. And Illinois is now the abortion capital of the Midwest because he made it that way. Governor J.B. Pritzker. Illinois used to be about opportunity and family values. Now it's the go-to state for late-term abortion. Over 46,000 abortions in Illinois were done in 2022 or 2023 alone. 46,000 in Illinois alone, and many of you paid for that. And under Governor J.B. Pritzker, that number is just going to keep going up and up and up every single year. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. I'm Cat, reminding you that taxpayer-funded abortion is not compassionate. It's corruption. And all of these people are making tons of money. And it's time we demand real leadership. It's time we step up and demand that they stop funding this madness. It's time we stand for life here in the state of Illinois. What do you think? Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I so do appreciate you being here. Let's get to the facts. Okay, so according to energy professionals, ComEd rates raised by 53%. Okay, Ameren, we have Ameren, Illinois. Ours went up 40%. but they went up 47% according to energy professionals. Our bill went up by 40%, so it's pretty dang close, you know. That's not pocket change, okay? Either way, whether you have ComEd, Ameren, that is a huge, huge gut punch, okay? That's the difference between being able to pay for your grocery bills one week or not. Okay, so that's how much your energy went up. So we're looking at like $150, right? Went up $150 every month. Like that's like a week of groceries, okay? So the Clean Jobs Coalition claims it's because Donald Trump and Donald Trump's administration rolled back certain tax incentives. So this is subsidies for clean energy. We talked about the Greenbelt Energy, which was this like wind transmission line. It was going to cost $4.9 billion or something crazy like that. And they pulled that. So stuff like that, they're saying that it's Donald Trump's fault because he rolled back certain tax incentives for clean energy and because, quote, big tech energy hungry data centers. Okay. So that is what they're blaming this all on. I find it so fascinating because really Donald Trump hasn't been there like too long in his second term. Like we were dealing with skyrocketing energy prices before Donald Trump took office in January. Okay, he's only been there for like, I don't know, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, like 6 months. Okay, something like that. And they like continue to blame him. And up until like this second term, like him taking office in January, like he was in Mar-a-Lago golfing and like running a campaign, and he had nothing to do with politics or with the energy prices. Okay. And they've been going up and up and up and up for years now, really since Joe Biden took office. That's when we started to see everything skyrocket. It's probably because of the tax incentives for clean energy, because we know clean energy isn't reliable, which I'm going to get to today. Here's the truth. Illinois energy market has been under the thumb of politicians, regulators, and lobbyists for decades. And the problem isn't that clean energy got less federal welfare. It's that Illinois has deliberately dismantled reliable, affordable power sources in favor of subsidized, politically correct energy projects. That is what's going on with the energy market. Okay, it's not that they just recently got less federal welfare, because all up until this point, clean energy projects like your carbon pipelines, like your wind transmission lines, they all got billions of dollars from Joe Biden and from the Biden administration, yet we still had crazy high energy prices. Okay, so if solar farms and wind farms, I hate calling them that, they're really solar plants and wind plants. If they really worked, then they would work, right? For the last 4 or 5 years, we've had climbing energy bills. Okay. This recent uptick is really about Illinois deliberately dismantling reliable, affordable energy power sources in favor of the subsidized green energy that really doesn't work. So you shut down coal plants, you shut down nuclear plants, you put those on the chopping block, and then you overregulate natural gas, you overregulate these power companies, which these power companies are overregulated. I am no like friend of the power companies, by the way, Ameren and ComEd. Like, let's not forget that ComEd bribed Michael Madigan, and Michael Madigan is serving in prison for that. Okay, serving a prison sentence for that. They put all of these power sources, the reliable power sources, like your nuclear energy, like your coal, and they want you to act shocked, that the wind doesn't blow and that the solar doesn't shine, or like the sun doesn't shine enough to keep the grid running. They expect you to act shocked, but that wind and solar aren't reliable. Especially in Illinois, they're not really reliable, especially when it comes to the solar. January, February, we're not getting like much sunlight at all. There's months out of the year where there's very little sunlight. So this is a classic Illinois maneuver. They're blaming the president because that is like a Republican, or like because the president happens to be a Republican. Like this is a classic Illinois maneuver, classic Governor J.B. Pritzker maneuver. Blame Donald Trump, right, for everything to distract from the mess at home. Next thing you know, they're going to be blaming Donald Trump for like potholes and like, I don't know, like whatever Illinois is facing. They're going to blame him for everything that happens here in the state. The state passed, we know, the Climate Equitable Jobs Act. This is CEJA, commonly referred to as CEJA. This is a law that tries to get Illinois to be 100% carbon free by the year 2045. Okay. And I know that sounds nice on paper until you realize it's basically just a slow demolition of affordable energy. And then you really hate CEJA. And I really don't like the act either. It transitions us, from reliable sources of power to the wind and solar, which aren't reliable. But it's not all CEJA, and I'm going to get to that here in a second because there's more mandates that have been piled on, and these utility companies, these energy companies, they are forced to pretty much buy expensive renewable power, your wind energy, your solar panels, and these are subsidized green companies, and they have the gall to tell you that you're saving the planet when your bills double. Okay, it's expensive. Okay, because the infrastructure isn't there to hold up wind and solar to transition our grid off of wind or off of these reliable power sources to wind and solar. Okay, so it's expensive to invest in infrastructure to keep up with the demand when you're transitioning everything to wind and solar. Okay, so that is why everything is going up. It's because it's expensive to do this thing, to actually keep up with the demand with things that don't work. Okay, it's like they're trying to polish a turd, and that's pretty expensive work, essentially. To polish the turd of wind and solar. That is what the energy companies are doing, and they're doing it with your money. So let's not forget ComEd literally admitted to bribery scheme involving House Speaker Michael Madigan. So I don't want to make this story like energy companies good guys, politicians bad guys. Okay, that is not this story. They bribed Michael Madigan to push favorable legislation for them. So the corruption is an ancient history. It's happening right now. It just looks a little bit different. Really, with these power companies, they don't mind the green energy stuff, I'm sure of it, because it's a way to not actually work and do their job and put out a meaningful product. Okay, if they're mandated and subsidized, okay, so hey, we want you to transition everything from reliable power sources like nuclear. We want you to transition off of that, and we want you to do wind and solar. Here's a ton of cash to do it. Okay, they're going to say, okay, whatever. I don't really care because you're giving me all of this taxpayer cash that I didn't have to work for. Okay, so this is like one of those get rich quick things. The energy companies are not the good guys in this story. I do want to play this clip. We're going to play this clip, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how it's not just CEJA. There's also other mandates that you have to be aware of that come in the form of a surcharge rather than like kilowatt cents per kilowatt, okay, on your energy bill. And that's what's really made these energy bills high as well. But let's take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
Yeah, you get a $3,000 bill when you're not really expecting it. It raises your cost, 1 month or $1,000 in a month. You can't budget for that. You can't plan for that. And then it has a trickle down effect. We're at the point where we've had to cut back on hours of some of our employees and take up those hours ourselves because we can't, keep up with payroll to pay that stuff. And it seems like it always trickles down to the little guy, like us.
The very communities the governor and his allies claim to help have been abandoned. Under CEJA and its predecessor, FEJA, the Future Energy Jobs Act of 2016, Illinois has been shutting down affordable, reliable coal and natural gas plants, sources that actually work and are critical to grid stability. But why? to appease the climate alarmists who think we can power Illinois with windmills and wishful thinking.
We have over 200 billion tons of big, beautiful coal available. All we have to do is go get it. And it would be a tremendous driver for jobs and opportunity. This whole CEJA thing, this whole green energy scam needs to be thrown in the garbage where it belongs.
Okay, so I wanted to share that clip with you. Green energy scam. I throw around that word a lot. Really what the scam is these people want to get rich quick with taxpayer cash. Okay, and they don't actually want to mine the coal. They don't actually want to do the work. Nuclear power takes a lot of manpower. It takes a lot of people on the ground. I actually am from Braidwood, Illinois, and I got to tour the nuclear power plant, which was really, really cool when I was a young kid. There's a lot that goes into getting these things to work, okay? These power sources and mining it and making it into actual power, okay? And getting it to turn on our lights, okay? There's a lot of work that our linemen, right? There's a lot of powerful men who keep our lights on, okay? And by powerful men, I mean it in the most positive way possible. These are people who are hard workers and do the gritty thing, which is to get the source and turn it into light, okay, and turn it into heat, turn it into AC. That process is hard and takes a lot of manpower, and they don't really want to do that. They would like to get rich quick. They would want the green energy subsidies. Like I said, this is just anti-biblical. They're just evil people who want to get rich quick, and they want to do it at your expense, and they want your money. Now, we talked a lot about CEJA and the transitioning from nuclear, from coal to wind and solar. These are non-reliable sources of power. There's a mandate on the energy companies, but the mandate, like, the energy companies aren't upset about this mandate. They don't mind the mandate as long as they get their taxpayer subsidies to comply with the mandate, you see. So what's going on here is they want to get rich quick, but then there's also this other piece to it. There's other tiny little mandates that nickel and dime you every single time you get your energy bill in the mail, okay? So another mandate that I'm thinking of is the 2023 mandate, where, I mean, it's like 8 months out of the year practically where you can't shut off people's power if they don't pay their bills. Now, up north, it's interesting that ComEd, it was a 53% rate raise, increase, 53% increase in your energy bill. From what I hear, as there's a big portion in the Chicago area of people who are unable to pay their electric bill, okay? It used to be you would get your electric shut off, okay? You no longer get the service that men work for to provide you, okay? Like I said, it's a process to mine the coal, to get that coal, to turn it around and turn it into energy, okay? It's a very involved process with a lot of men, and it takes time, talent, and treasure. It takes somebody's time and effort to transition that into power for you. That is unsustainable. We cannot pay for people's service. Like you and I are going to wind up paying for people's service that they're being provided. Okay, so these energy companies aren't shutting off their power when they don't pay their bills. They're not paying their bills. So who's paying to keep that power on? Who's paying the servicemen who transition all of that stuff into the energy to heat our homes? Okay, who's paying the people, the linemen who keep the power on? Who's paying those people? It's you and I through the surcharges. It's definitely not the people who aren't paying or are delinquent on their bills. Okay, but yet they still get the electricity. It's an unsustainable model and unsustainable legislation that was signed into law in 2023, where 8 months out of the year, you can't shut off their bill due to extreme heat and extreme cold. And I'm all about compassion. I'll get to that here in just a second, how energy policy should be crafted in truth and compassion. But what we're dealing with here is not really compassion. This is buying people's votes, poor people's votes, the subsidized poor. Okay, it's buying their votes so that way the Democrats stay in power. So I do want to get to big tech, energy hungry data centers. Yes, the data centers take a lot of power. Okay, like streaming Netflix, Google. If you're streaming this show on YouTube, right, running cloud storage, all of that takes electricity. And they're blaming the 50% of the 53% rate increase for ComEd, right? They're blaming that on the data centers. Okay, blaming the increase on data centers is like blaming grocery stores for your property taxes. Okay, they're not the ones who are hiking. The grocery clerk behind the desk or behind the checkout counter is not the one raising your property taxes. It's the school boards. Okay, Unit 5. Go take an issue with Unit 5 school board or District 87 school board. They're the ones who are constantly voting to raise your property taxes. It's the McLean County board, your local boards, right? That's them. And it's the state, because of their unfunded pension liability, it's their fault. Okay. So if Illinois had diversified and done something that I will call a resilient energy grid and created a resilient energy grid and diversified and didn't just try to transition us off of reliable power sources like coal and nuclear, if they were to have diversified, actually, then we would have a resilient grid and the data centers wouldn't be a crisis. It wouldn't be a problem if we had a resilient energy grid, but we don't. And they'd actually be an opportunity. I think data centers are the way of the future, right? AI, they'd actually be an opportunity for more economic growth. Unfortunately, they are a bit of a burden here in the state of Illinois. Plus, we're farming out a lot of we're selling a lot of our energy, which is fascinating to me because, why are we selling it when we, are raising the rates on people and claiming that we don't have the infrastructure? We should be investing rather than giving the energy away. We should be storing it and keeping it for ourselves. Anyway, when you run an energy system that's held together by subsidies and political promises, any increase in demand is going to become a reason for panic. So yes, the data centers increase demand. AI is a thing, and that's increasing demand for energy. But it's because we have an energy system that's held together by glue and tape. Okay, gluing subsidies and taping these political promises and clean energy promises. Okay. Now, the Clean Jobs Coalition is pushing this Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act in order to deal with the expensive energy price or energy bills. Okay. This sounds good. They always do, right? Affordable, reliable, clean. But we can decode this. Like most bills that are passed, most legislation, we can decode this. Really affordable means more subsidies that the state is going to be spending. So what they're going to do is bail out the energy companies with subsidies to pay for the wind and solar that doesn't work. Okay. And that's really what the energy companies want in the end, because like I said, they don't actually want to do the job. They would much rather sit on their asses and get paid taxpayer cash for not doing a damn thing. Okay. A lot of the wind and solar farms, they're not even really hooked up to the grid at this point because they actually don't work. The people who are running the grid and the real men, okay, I say real men, they know that none of that actually works. You'd be shocked to find out that none of that stuff is actually really hooked up to the grid. So anyway, they would prefer the top elites. They would prefer to get rich quick and to get the taxpayer cash for the green energy crap. So affordable means subsidies in the state spending. And by state spending, I mean your taxes. So your state taxes are going to rise. Reliable means don't blame us when the lights go out. Okay. So they're going to flood more taxpayer cash for the green energy stuff, and they're going to transition the grid even more off of natural gas or off of nuclear, coal, things like that. They're going to transition us even more, but then they're going to say, don't blame us when we have rolling blackouts, okay, or brownouts. And then they say clean. So this means, of course, only the politically approved, politically correct energy is what we're going to be working with here and connecting to the grid. So that is this bill that the Clean Jobs Coalition is pushing. It's called the Clean Reliable Grid Affordability Act, and I decoded it here for you. It's anything but clean, reliable, and affordable, okay, because your state taxes are going to wind up going up, and they're going to keep transitioning us off of wind, or transition us to wind and solar off of the reliable power sources, and that's going to continue to spike up your bill. Okay, so they say that it's going to protect families from utility bill spikes, but these are the same folks who caused the policies that spiked the bills in the first place. Okay, so notice how they create the problem, then they come up with a solution. The solution isn't much of a solution. It's actually exacerbates the problem. So it's like an arsonist selling you fire insurance, okay, after they've lit the match. That is what's going on here. They're little arsonists, and they're trying to sell you fire insurance after they've already lit the match. So I was thinking about this. Here's a little satire bit for you. Little satire break. Imagine renewable energy and if they had dating profiles, okay? So wind power, if they had a dating profile and they were on like Tinder or whatever, their dating profile, wind power would be like, I'm fun when I'm in the mood, but don't expect me to be there when you really need me. A lot of the wind turbines, by the way, if you watch them, they're not moving at all. And they actually have a turbine in them. So an engine that's run off gas a lot of the time. It's a gas engine, gas-powered engine. They've got engines in the back that move the propellers. So they're not actually like clean, right? Or carbon-free. So wind power's like, I'm fun when I'm in the mood, but don't expect me to be there when you really need me. Also, I need constant financial support. Yes. So these things don't pay off themselves. So the state needs to step in and pay for it via taxpayer subsidies. Solar would be like, yeah, I'm available 8 to 12 hours a day, weather permitting. Swipe left if you live in Illinois in February. Okay. So that's the solar's dating profile. Okay. I mean, it's not even available, more than 8 to 12 hours a day. And then that's weather permitting if we don't have a cloudy day. And then also in the winter months like January, February in Illinois, we don't have much sun at all. So these are not relationship material energy sources. Okay. Coal and nuclear, they're strong, they're stable, they're reliable, but they're banned from the dating app, because the moderators think that they're too old fashioned. That is our green energy dating profiles summed up for you. And I don't know about you, but I would not want to date wind and solar. I would much rather date coal and nuclear. Strong, stable, reliable. Unfortunately, they've been banned from the app, and I can't date them because the moderators think that they're too old-fashioned. So let's look at this from a Christian perspective. Be sure to smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Stewardship means choosing our resources wisely, using them wisely. That includes the earth's resources and your financial resources. God gave us coal, natural gas, nuclear, hydro, wind, solar, all of them. He gave them to us all. And I think that we should diversify our grid. I'm not totally against wind and solar. I'm just against them being the majority of our grid because they're not as reliable. So the command in Genesis is to subdue the earth and be good stewards, not to arbitrarily ban the tools that keep people warm in the winter and cool in the summer because of a political ideology. we are to subdue the earth and not put bans on tools that help people keep warm and help people stay cool in the summer. Energy policy, like I said, should be rooted in truth and compassion. However, compassion doesn't necessarily mean paying for everybody's energy bills, okay? And having some people pay, because that's not just, that's not fair scales. The Bible talks about honest scales, balanced scales. That's not balanced. Okay, if you have a group of people paying for everybody's energy and they're not paying for their energy, but yet they still get the service, that's not fair. Okay, that's not compassion. So energy policy needs to be rooted in truth and what works. And the truth is coal and nuclear work. And it needs to be rooted in compassion for these families, because I'm sorry, but like that guy said, the clip that I played earlier, he was a business owner and his bill came in and it was $1,000 more. And he goes, you can't budget for that kind of stuff. So you need to have more compassion. These legislators need to have more compassion, and they need to realize, like, hey, I get that these people in the energy sector, they don't really want to work anymore. And I get that they would on a Tuesday like to be on a jet ski, like on a random Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I get that they don't really want to work, but they're going to have to. And we're going to have to mine the coal, and we're going to have to work the nuclear power plants, and we're going to have to turn this into reliable energy and provide jobs to working families. We're going to have to abandon this elitist mindset of getting rich quick and getting rich up the taxpayer, because that's really what this is. When people say green energy scam, that's what that is. It's scamming the taxpayer into this idea that, hey, this is good for the planet, but really what it is, it's good for me because I get to be lazy. That's what that's all about. So if you want affordable, reliable energy, don't trust the press releases from the coalitions that have these nice sounding names, the Clean Jobs Coalition or whatever the hell, right? Don't trust their press releases, and the bills that they push. Definitely don't subscribe to those. And we have to elect people who are going to defend energy sources, fight utility corruption, fight these utility companies that don't want to work anymore and which would much rather get rich quick on the taxpayer's dime. We have to stop chasing these green utopias. They don't exist. And we have to stop chasing them at the expense of working families. The ballot box is the real clean energy solution, okay? And it's the real clean energy revolution. We have to clean out corruption, clean out the incompetence, and we have to keep our lights on. The way we do that is by voting, okay? Voting people who fear God more than these utility companies, more than ComEd and Ameren, and more than, the political elites in this state agency that looks at energy, clean energy, right? Whatever faction of the state agency, I don't know what it's called, but there's tons of them, right? The EPA, whatever. We have to stop worrying about the bureaucrats and these elitists in the energy sector. Energy policy isn't about climate or technology. It's about freedom. Okay. If you can't afford to heat your home, you're not free. Okay. That's what energy policy is really about. It's about freedom. And if the state dictates what kind of energy you can use, you are not free. And the Bible says in John 8, 32, chapter 8, verse 32, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The truth is, Illinois' energy crisis is actually man-made. It's manufactured. And they're doing it on purpose so that way they can continue to get rich without doing any kind of actual real work. Okay, it's really, I wish it was more complicated than that, but it's just a bunch of lazy, elitist, rich ass wipes, okay? Excuse my French. But it's a lot of rich losers who don't actually want to do work. Okay, freedom starts when we stop buying into the lies that this is about saving the planet. This isn't about saving the planet. It's about saving Becky from having to work 8 hours a day. Okay. All right, I got to take a quick break, but we're going to shift gears. I want to get to Jasmine Crockett. I promised you I'd get to her. I hate to break the news to you, but Jasmine Crockett is kind of the de facto Democrat leader right now, the leader of the Democrat Party. And I don't know if you have heard, but she is actually a terrible person, a horrible person, and a horrible person to work for, according to anonymous sources. I know this is completely earth-shattering for you. I know you absolutely love Jasmine Crockett, and you thought she was just the sweetest girl out there, like so sweet. And that this might be really earth-shattering for you this morning. So I'm going to take a quick break, let you collect your thoughts so we can move forward. And I'll be back with more on Jasmine Crockett and how her staff actually really does not like her. Welcome back to Conservative Cat Clips. I'm Kat, and we're going to be talking about the myth of free college today. Free college, they cry, as if professors would grade 100 term papers for hugs. Okay, do you know any professor that would be willing to grade papers in exchange for hugs? I don't know any professors that would do that. And let me get one thing straight. There's no such thing as free college. Somebody pays for it. And spoiler alert, it's not the kid getting the woke gender studies degree. It's going to be you. It's going to be me via our taxes, your grandchildren's taxes. And they slap the word free on it, and they hope that you don't notice the bill until it's too late. So you know what happens when you make college free? You're going to flood the system with a bunch of people who aren't really ready for the working world. And then you're going to jack up tuition costs, because if it's getting paid by the taxpayer, why not jack up the tuition costs? And not to mention, you're devaluing the degree, okay? A bachelor's in gender liberation studies is not going to be worth much when you hand out these degrees like candy. Any kind of degree that you hand out, if you start handing them out like candy, then they're not going to be worth very much. And what's worse are these bloated institutions spending a whole lot of time pushing Marxist ideology, and they're not actually teaching our students marketable skills. There's diversity coordinators at these bloated institutions who make six figures, and your kid isn't able to get the student isn't able to get an internship unless they sell their soul to the wokeism ideology, and they sign a pledge about climate reparations, and they subscribe to this wokeism ideology. Here's a revolutionary idea, everyone. Not everyone needs to go to college. Trade schools, you can build homes, you can fix engines, you can wire up buildings, you can keep America humming. A welder can make up to $90K a year with no debt, a couple of trucks in the driveway, and he doesn't need a Marxist lecture on how his white privilege makes him inherently biased. Okay, free college and the free college crowd, they say that education is a right, but when government makes a right, they get to control it. So they'll say education is a right, and that's why it's got to be free. Reminder, spoiler alert, it's not free. They decide what gets taught, what speech is allowed, what ideas are allowed on campus, who's allowed on campus. That's not in education, that is indoctrination. So they say education is a right, and when government affords you rights, then they get to control it. Government is not in the business of giving you rights. We have unalienable rights, and those are laid out in the Constitution. Proverbs 22:7 says, the borrower is servant to the lender. Maybe we should stop chaining children, chaining our young youth to debt in the name of fake opportunity. There's fake opportunity, and let's start talking about hard work, grit, and real world skills. Okay, don't fall for the fantasy. Nothing in life is free except salvation. And even that came at a cost. Jesus paid it, not the federal government. Okay, so it's time to stop sending our kids into these ideological boot camps, and we have to start investing in real futures. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button right now. Do it right now while you're watching, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Subscribe, and then also tell somebody about Conservative Cat today and tell them to subscribe. Be sure to visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Buy your bottle of pre-workout. It's on the shelf right behind me. There's a bottle right over there. Good stuff. Keeps me focused all day long. There's black pepper extract in it. We are of the belief here at Conservative Cat that pharmaceutical companies and big pharma, they want to make you little guinea pigs and make you little lab rats forever and get you hooked. That's why big food, puts exorbitant amounts of caffeine and sugar. Then you wind up becoming a big pharma patient and you're hooked on that sugar and caffeine forever. This is an alternative energy drink that doesn't have crazy amounts of caffeine and sugar in it. But we use ingredients like something like black pepper extract to keep you focused and to keep your energy there all day long. Okay, so caffeine is kind of like a quick fix. You get a crash, then you have to get another hit of caffeine. This has lower amounts of caffeine and other ingredients to keep that long-lasting energy. Okay, so use promo code Conservative Cat. Let me get to some of your comments. But wind and solar are renewable. That means the power they produce is free. It's not free because we always have wind and solar, right? Yeah. Appreciate you being here, Bob. Yeah. See, and that's the thing is why they don't like coal and nuclear. It takes a lot of manpower. Now, I will say that wind and solar, there's not a ton of manpower that goes into it. A lot of wind and solar, those windmills, the solar panels, they're all built and paid for in China. So really the labor behind it is foreign. So there's foreign labor that we're, purchasing from China. We're bolstering China's economy by purchasing these things and allowing them to come buy up all the farmland and put them here. Okay. So it's not even American labor. They're not interested in coal. They're not interested in nuclear. China, here in the United States, they're interested in the wind and solar. So the people who are getting rich are the foreign governments, the elitists, people in the energy sector, the elitists there. They're getting the taxpayer subsidies, right, to transition to the wind and solar. So, yeah, the wind and solar is not free. Okay, there is labor behind it. It just so happens to be the foreign labor that's behind it. Typically, it's like a 12-year-old little girl who's mining lithium or mining some of these materials for the solar panels, okay, or a little boy in these mines who are trying to mine these precious materials to make the damn solar panel in the first place. And the foreigners are forcing them, these little tiny children, to make these things. And then we buy them off of China. We bolster their economy. The rich in China get richer. And then we give taxpayer subsidies to the utility companies to transition from natural or from coal and nuclear reliable power sources, and we give them taxpayer cash, and then those people all stuff their pockets. Okay, so everybody's getting rich except you, essentially. So yeah, I appreciate the comment. Only way out is to vote. Yes, so the only way is to vote. And like I said, a lot of you are discouraged from voting in Illinois. You say things like, does my vote really count? And I don't blame you. Make McLean County red again. Yeah, the only way to get out of this is to vote. I don't blame you for saying things like my vote doesn't count, because a lot of the times you go vote for somebody here in the state of Illinois. And I don't know if it's because the Republican Party is so broken that we don't have actual Republicans who are running for as candidates, and they don't meet the tenets of the Republican platform, or they don't abide by the tenets of the Republican platform, and we vote them in thinking that they're going to do something of value once they're in office, but then they wind up like screwing you. I don't blame you for saying my vote doesn't count, because even if I vote for a Republican and I think that this is a great candidate, they turn around and wind up being a rhino or wind up voting in against my best interests. So I don't blame you, but you're so right. Rick Terry, you're totally right. The only way out is to vote. At this point is to just vote and hope for the best. If you don't fight at all, you're never going to win. Okay. Kat, we can vote all we want, but Democrats have mastered the vote by mail, get out the vote game. Yes, that's another thing that you're working against, is to get out the vote by mail game. And, you have the subsidized poor, essentially these nonprofit organizations who are working on behalf of getting out the vote, okay? The Democrat vote. So here's how it works. You have X nonprofit, let's just say, I don't know, I don't want to call any, so like, let's just say Democrat nonprofit here, okay? And they're getting paid with taxpayer dollars, right? They get checks from the Illinois comptroller, okay? You can go check it out. A lot of nonprofits just get blanket checks and they get sent checks from the comptroller's office. You can look it up via their EIN. They get taxpayer money to run and to do X mission, right? Whatever their nonprofit mission is. Say it's like a criminal justice reform nonprofit. Okay, so those people are all working in that nonprofit organization and they're getting paid with the taxpayer money. And then they go with that taxpayer money and they go lobby their lawmakers for more money to get for their nonprofit. And it's just this vicious cycle of getting rich quick. It's kind of the theme of today's show. And then come election time, all those people who work in those nonprofits, the subsidized poor, they go out and they get out the vote. Why? Because if they don't get Democrats elected, they will not have their job in the nonprofit sector. So are you seeing this thing for what it is? They have mastered get out the vote. Why? Because they have to out of necessity. Because they will no longer have their means and like their lifestyles anymore and their money if they don't get those Democrats in. So quite literally, they are dependent on getting those Democrats in. So they will do anything to get out the vote. All of these wind and solar materials are a huge problem when they go bad. Fires, contaminants into our land and water, and the use of oil to run the windmills. Yeah, this isn't helping anybody. It's hurting people. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've done stories on solar farm or solar plants. I like to call them solar plants, just randomly combusting. There have been tons of rooftop fires, Augustana College, Olympia High School, just here in the central Illinois area, in the Illinois area. Farmington, there was this big solar panel fire that broke out, and they're just like randomly, I think the converters go bad and they're really hard to put out. And then not to mention how those things are made are really bad because of the human atrocities that go on in these foreign countries that actually make the windmills and the solar panels. A lot of them are foreign countries who make those things, and they don't have to abide by certain human rights or wage requirements, OSHA, okay, things like that don't exist in communist countries. So all the way around, it's bad. No matter what way you look at wind and solar, it's pretty bad. I'd like to get to a point where we're making our own solar panels and windmills here in the United States. We don't do that so much. A little bit, but not nearly to the extent of what we're doing with China, and we're buying it from China. Okay, so we're buying it from China. China's coming here, and they're buying up farmland, and then they're creating their solar and wind companies here. And then we're giving them taxpayer subsidies to do that. And then we're having the energy companies, we're giving them taxpayer subsidies to transition off of nuclear and coal to wind and solar, our grid, and transition by 2045 to just wind and solar. So everybody's getting rich off of taxpayer cash. And none of those people are you. Anyway, any way you look at it, it's not good. I'd like to get to a point where we can diversify our grid. I think that is really smart. Anytime you can diversify your resources, you won't run out of them, right? If you can diversify. So I'm not completely against it. However, it's not reliable, wind and solar at this point for the demand that we have. So completely banning coal or nuclear power sources is just outright stupid. And it's really designed to make it to where we can't be free, and they choose what kind of form of energy you're allowed to use. Okay, that's really what it's all about. Anyway, let's get to Jasmine Crockett, like I said. Hate to break the news to you, but Jasmine Crockett, she is kind of a horrible person. I don't know if you knew that, at least according to the people she has working for her, they really don't like her. Her staffers. Shocking news was broken by New York Post via anonymous former staffers speaking on background under the condition of being anonymous. Okay, so they wanted this anonymous status. So anytime there's anonymous sources, I've always told you, take that with a grain of salt, unless these people are talking about people we don't like. Okay, unless the anonymous sources are talking about Jasmine Crockett or Joe Biden. A lot of the time, that stuff usually pans out to be 100% factual and truth. Turns out to be 100% the truth. I always tell you to take it with a grain of salt, but typically when the butt of the story, or when the crux of the story revolves around somebody we don't like a Jasmine Crockett, a Joe Biden, a Hunter Biden, typically the anonymous sources talking about those folks are 100% telling the truth. So they're credible sources. According to credible anonymous sources, Representative Jasmine Crockett is lazy. Quote from the New York Post, right? They have the story. Quote, she is focused almost exclusively on being an influencer, not a member of Congress. And like many virtue signaling female progressives of color, it's all about her gender and the melanin. Okay. And not her congressional duties. Okay. So that's really what this is all about. Like many other of her squad member colleagues, her female progressives of color around her, that's all it's about to them, is their gender and their melanin. They don't actually focus on being a member of Congress and doing anything for their constituency. So Crockett allegedly, so this is what one former staffer said, an anonymous staffer. She's focused exclusively on being an influencer, not a member of Congress. Crockett allegedly fired a Black female staffer who told a colleague, quote, I don't want to hear Jasmine Crockett talk about helping Black women, because she fired one with no reason, for no reason. This is what the Black female staffer told a colleague of hers. All of them don't have names, by the way, in the story. Here's another quote. You would think working for a Black woman, if you were a young Black woman or a young person of color, you would feel empowered in that space, said the former Democratic congressional aide. But truly, the only person that she thinks about or cares about is herself. And I know what you're thinking, Kat, how can this be? I don't know how you are able to say this about Jasmine Crockett and how you take this as truth, because the way I see Jasmine Crockett, she seems like a really sweet girl, very quiet, very chill, very down to earth. And this is just shocking news to me that she is a horrible person to her staffer. I don't know how you can come out and say that this seems truthful. Jasmine Crockett is not chill. Okay, she is not a very down-to-earth person, and I'm not shocked by this news. The way she speaks, she cusses. She's just not classy. Not somebody I would want my children around. Not somebody I would want to hang out with. She sounds like one of those friends in the friend group where they get really loud when they get drunk, and you're like, I really don't want to hang out with this person because they're drawing attention to this table, and I'm just wanting to unwind after a long week, right? So she's just very loud and boisterous and bold, and I don't think that I would get along with her very much at all. You have to remember this person, Jasmine Crockett. There was actually a story I did a couple of weeks ago about Jasmine Crockett, and there was this total puff piece on her, okay? It was an anti-Trump puff piece. I can't remember who wrote it. I think it was like Vox or Huffington Post. I don't know. One of the leftist organizations. They wrote this puff piece. It was a tabloid, and the reporter of this tabloid had, I remember, reached out to colleagues of hers without getting her permission for this puff piece on her. So it was a puff piece about, it was a glowing puff piece about how she's the Democrat leader and how she's going into this Trump era, and she has to navigate the Trump era and navigate this new Republican Party in this new Trump era. Okay, so it was a puff piece, and she got really pissed at this reporter who was on her side, by the way, writing this glowing puff piece on her and writing an anti-Trump piece. She got pissed at the reporter because the reporter didn't get her permission to go out and get some of her colleagues for comment and to go on the record. So we have to remember, like, this person is not very sane. So as of today, the Congresswoman has not responded to the New York Post piece about all these anonymous staffers who have come out and said that she's a horrible person to work for. I'm sure that we're going to get accusations of isms. Oh, well, these staffers are racist or they're bigots or whatever. I'm sure those accusations are going to get thrown around. I'm sure she's going to blame Donald Trump for this somehow. You know, conspiracy theorists like, oh, Donald Trump paid all of my staffers, and I don't know, some blue and on conspiracy theory is going to get out there, and they're going to wind up blaming Donald Trump for these anonymous staffers coming out and saying that she's a horrible person to work for. And then she'll say like a cuss word or two to try to convey that she's a real person to people. I really hate that about Jasmine Crockett. It's like she cusses every other like sentence. And I think she tries to do it like as a way to convey that she's like a real authentic person. But it just comes off as like, I don't know what you would say, boisterous and bold and obnoxious. And I really can't stand it. So Nancy Mace is now running for governor of South Carolina. Whatever. I don't know. Mace is whatever. She likes to claim that she's a MAGA conservative. Oh, I could have just kept reading your comment and you would have you've taken the words right out of my mouth. She likes to pretend she's a MAGA conservative, but she grades a D on the Conservative Review scorecard. Yeah, not shocked by that. Nancy Mace is one of those who comes out and she was like real about the gender thing, a lot of these social issues, but then she'll turn around and vote for aid for Ukraine, which is really annoying. But really what she's doing there is just trying to, put herself out there. Like one of those influencers, like, you know how Jasmine Crockett, AOC, they're influencers before they're members of Congress. That is exactly what Nancy Mace is, but she's almost worse because she actually votes on policies that hurt her constituents a whole lot. Okay. And yes, of course, Jasmine Crockett, AOC, they vote on policies that hurt their constituents a whole lot, but you wouldn't think Nancy Mace would, okay, because of her Republican title. But she's not in it to be a member of Congress. She's really in it to be an influencer. So yeah, her pajama road trip. Yeah, I was just going to bring that out before big, beautiful bill vote. Yeah, she went on like a road trip. She like traveled to Washington, D.C. for the big, beautiful bill vote. And she like traveled in her pajamas, stopped at like a Waffle House. And similar to that of Jasmine Crockett, where Jasmine Crockett just cusses all of the time, to try to convey that she's a real person. You have the Nancy Maces who go out there and pretend that they're real people by pulling off these like political stunts where they're in pajamas and they're like traveling to like Waffle Houses down south. And like, she's trying to convey that she's an authentic person. You don't have to try to convey you're an authentic person if you're actually an authentic person. Okay, Donald Trump is a truly authentic person, and he doesn't have to try to convey that he's an authentic person. Okay, when you're real, when you're an authentic person, it just comes off that way. There's been lots of, Republican lawmakers that have done this. I would even say, don't forget MTG, Lauren Boebert. I think it was Lauren Boebert. It might have even been Mary Miller, which I'm not anti-Mary Miller, by the way. I really like a lot of the stuff she comes up with. But some of these congressmen, they get hooked into this like social media influencer type thing. When the big, beautiful bill passed, one of them, I think it might have been Lauren Boebert, I don't know, MTG, they like held a gun and they were like, praising this provision within the big, beautiful bill that zeroed out the silencer tax or the suppressor tax from $200 to zero. Okay. And they praised it as like a huge win, but really you still have to register your suppressor. So it's not really a big win. And like, it was just a lot of gaslighting. Like, look what we did, and it was just like, okay, if you were to read the provision, we would know that it's not really that big of a win. And you're just out here trying to like get clicks with this big gun in your hand. Okay. And I would appreciate it. Like, I don't mind, the social media, like Donald Trump does it all the time. For example, McDonald's. I wouldn't mind if you like actually knew what you were talking about, right? So the reason why Donald Trump went to go work at McDonald's and pulled off this social media stunt was because Kamala Harris had claimed to work at McDonald's and she never actually did. So it was funny and it was ingenious. But there's some things that these lawmakers do on social media that are just stupid and silly and like just flat out dumb, and they don't hit. So Donald Trump is the master at social media. He did the garbage man thing. I can't remember what that was about. I think it was something to do with Joe Biden. But he just is a master at social media. These people aren't, and they so badly. And maybe it's because Donald Trump is so good at it. And they like Donald Trump lives rent free, not only in the leftist heads, but sometimes in these Republicans' heads. And they're so focused on chasing the clout that Donald Trump has that they're not actually doing their jobs. And, like, why chase Donald Trump's clout and why try to chase clout when you can actually make a difference? There's no reason why those Republicans couldn't have gotten rid of the registry for suppressors. There's really no reason for it, because they have the majority, okay, in the House and the Senate. There's no reason why they had to compromise on that provision, but they did. And then they tried to pretend like they didn't compromise, and that's what really pissed me off. All right, I got to take a quick break, but we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is erasing a failure of Joe Biden's. We know that there was some border wall that Joe Biden had sold. So upon taking office in 2021, former President Joe Biden wasted no time opening up the border to all and any newcomers, all comers, okay? And in one of his first moves as commander-in-chief, he ridiculed Donald Trump in his efforts to build the wall, and he abandoned millions upon millions of dollars of equipment and supplies. And it was intended, this supplies, to fortify our southern boundary there. And Trump is getting it back. So Joe Biden kind of sold it to this global government surplus auction house. But now Donald Trump is getting that back. So we're going to be chatting a little bit about that. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and be sure to subscribe right now. I'll be right back. Hey, you're listening to the Conservative Cat Clips. This is the place where we don't call 911 first. Nope, we pray, we prepare, and yes, we pack heat. Every time there's a tragedy, the media and the Democrats, they start crying, do something, and do something. And what they mean is more laws, more bans, and more restrictions, not on criminals, mind you, but on law-abiding citizens. So let me tell you what evil doesn't care about. They don't care about legislation. The man willing to break the sixth commandment, thou shalt not murder, doesn't blink twice at your AR-15 ban. Okay, he doesn't read your gun-free zone signs. He sees those signs and he says, this is an invitation for me. Gun control doesn't stop evil. It disarms good people. The founding fathers didn't give us the Second Amendment so we could go hunting. They gave us the Second Amendment to protect ourselves against tyrants, both foreign and domestic. And newsflash, tyrants don't tend to announce themselves. They come wearing smiles and waving around fancy policies. And I also want to talk about self-defense today. Self-defense. The average police response time in big cities like Chicago could be up to 10 minutes, sometimes even longer. I know the Chicago PD is really struggling with that. Response times in rural areas, it could get up to even 30 minutes response time. So if somebody kicks down your door, are you going to ask them to wait until the government sends backup to protect you, or are you going to protect your family and take matters into your own hands? So grandma, okay, in Peoria, Illinois, she is just trying to defend her property, but yet she's the one treated like a criminal. She has to go through all kinds of crazy background checks, permits, training. And the thug in Chicago, he gets the gun out of his trunk in an alley, and he didn't think twice about our laws, okay? It's about power. It always has been. Every dictatorship in history has disarmed their citizens first. First, that's Stalin, that's Hitler, that's Mao. They didn't want competition. And once the guns were gone, so were the rights, the freedom, and the people. So a disarmed people is a controlled people. But an armed, faithful, and free people, that is a nightmare for tyrants. And really, it's a blessing to your neighbors if you are armed. The Second Amendment isn't outdated. It's eternal. And just like evil, just like our right, just like the evil has the right to do evil things, and that they will, we have the right to resist evil and to arm ourselves. And the Second Amendment is pretty dang clear, shall not be infringed. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and be sure to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button right now. Yes, $350 million of unused border wall materials. That was sold for pennies on the dollar by Joe Biden, and Donald Trump is getting his border wall back. So this just in, the Global Government Surplus Auction House. It listed unused components of President Donald Trump's border wall under the Biden administration, told Fox News Digital Friday that it plans to coordinate with the Trump administration to return some of those materials to the federal government. Wow. So he wants it back. This is a stunning reversal. The auctioneer is now sending back the border wall, the unused border wall to the feds to finish the wall. So border czar Tom Homan has been working out this deal. I love Tom Homan, by the way. He's just so fascinating. And he's not one of those social media influencers, by the way. You will rarely see Tom Homan out there trying to do the tweets and the photo ops and things like that. He's just really about doing the job and doing it well. In a statement to Fox News Digital, GovPlanet, this is a auction clearinghouse for the public sector in government surplus. They announced Friday that they have reached a breakthrough deal with the Trump administration. This is from the Office of the Border Czar. GovPlanet has reached an agreement working with the Office of the Border Czar to return the border wall materials that were previously deemed a surplus and sourced by the federal government to GovPlanet via existing contracts. So Joe Biden did this. He gave it to the surplus store, essentially, the company. And fun fact, this is actually a subsidiary of an Illinois-founded, British Columbia-based international operation. The company that it was sold to is called Ritchie Brothers Auctioneer RB Global. Okay, so kind of interesting. This was the contracts between Joe Biden, the administration, was between this subsidiary of an Illinois founded company. So British Columbia international operation called Ritchie Brothers Auctioneers RB Global. A third-party firm that has been contracted for construction of the border wall will take receipt of the materials over the next 90 days. So there's a third-party company that's going to be contracted for the construction of the border wall, and they're going to be getting the materials to construct the border wall. So I just wanted to bring this up this morning. This is just another example of the Trump administration erasing the disastrous failures of Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and the hack Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Each passing day, it seems that they did an enormous amount of damage to the country. With each passing day, I am starting to realize that they did incredible amount of damage to the country, and it becomes more and more apparent with each passing day. But 2025 is here, and it's cleanup time. Um, and I remember not that long ago, actually, on Joe Biden's inauguration day, the U.S., he had posted this on X. Look, the U.S. has the right to secure her borders. And this is what Joe Biden proclaimed on X on Inauguration Day. He said, but building a massive wall that spans the entire southern border is not a serious policy solution. It is a waste of money that diverts attention from genuine threats to our homeland security. So that's what Joe Biden posted on X on his Inauguration Day. He also said, our problems at the southern border didn't arise overnight. They won't be solved overnight. But we can come together and fix the broken system. We can secure the border and fix immigration process to be orderly, safe, fair, and humane. This was in 2021. I just can't believe, like, what? For years, Joe Biden and his corrupt cronies claimed that they were powerless in fixing the border. Okay, so in years 2022, 23, 24, they said that they needed more money, more legislation, and they couldn't do anything really to stop the tsunami of illegals pouring in over the southern border. Of course, Donald Trump comes in and he obliterates this argument pretty much overnight, and he shuts down the flow. And we are now looking at historic numbers, okay, historic prevention numbers, or historic numbers where there's nobody coming into the border, right? I mean, it's very, very tight now, the border. The border is tighter than it has been in generations, and you didn't need more legislation. You didn't need more money, nothing like that. Okay, so what we needed was really a new president and new leadership, and we've got that. Well, this has all been satisfying to watch. The latest move of getting back the border materials that Biden had abandoned is really, really satisfying to me. Okay. It's very gratifying. It's an extremely well-deserved slam dunk in the faces of the people who failed us so badly. And this just goes to show you, like, the way Donald Trump, his vision for the border security is clearly working. So a border wall will work because Donald Trump has a track record of low border crossings. Joe Biden didn't. So Biden said, oh, the border wall won't work. I think it will, because look at the track records, okay? Look at Trump 1, Biden 0. Trump is tearing down Biden's dreadful legacy one day at a time, and in one deal at a time. And this deal is going to be awesome. They're going to be building the border. They're getting back the border wall. And Biden probably doesn't even know that this is happening, by the way. Likely he's got no clue that he's buying the border wall back. Well, I don't even know if there's been a deal struck. So I don't think there's like a ton of tax, but like we're not going to be buying it back for more than what we had given it. Like we gave it pennies on the dollar. I think that we're going to be getting it back pretty much without costing the taxpayers too much. So that's exciting, but I highly doubt that Biden even knows what's going on. But I know what's going on, and I love it. I love that we're getting our border wall back. Now let's shift gears. We're going to talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker now, because he was on NBC. Yeah, NBC. I've got the clip here. And one of the funniest things about the Democrat freakout over the Texas redistricting plans is how hypocritical they are and how like angsty they're being over this. They claim that a democracy is under attack, yada, yada, yada. And really what's been happening in these blue states, specifically Illinois, is that gerrymandering has been treated like an art, and they've been gerrymandering for decades. Okay. And they make these arguments with straight faces that Texas is attacking democracy via this redistricting that's going on. And these people have no real sense of history. I guess they're unfamiliar with it. And it's like, do you guys think that we're dumb? Do you think that we didn't live in Illinois, or that the citizens here don't realize that the state's gerrymandered. Like, it's so insulting to our intelligence, but that's Democrats. They just love to insult your intelligence all day long. Let's take a listen to this clip. This is JB, your favorite governor, on NBC with Kristen Kristen Welker, I think is her name. I don't know. What is this? Blah, blah, blah. What is Welker? That's her name. And it turns out that Kristen Welker of Meet the Press, this is on NBC, she had a great question actually for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Turns out that the hypocrisy is too much for even her. Okay, so she had a great question for JB, who's been helping some of these runaway Texas Democrats who have fled to his state. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Your group that grades the fairness of congressional maps gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the president of the United States knows it and nevertheless is asking them to do it. That is what's wrong with what we're seeing right now. Democracy is at stake.
Every major group that grades the fairness of...
Wow. Talk about a non-answer. His response was absolutely ridiculous. And she talks about Common Cause. This is not, by the way, Common Cause has come out vehemently against Texas and the redistricting, what they're doing right now. I will say that Common Cause, the organization, has not come out and talked about how they've given the state of Illinois F after F after F when it comes to their congressional maps. They haven't come out and talked about how there's some hypocrisy going on here. They really should. But this really Illinois represents a perfect model of everything that could go wrong with the redistricting. And in Texas, what they're doing with the redistricting isn't nearly as bad as what Illinois has done. We've only got 3, when I think it's 43% of the electorate is Republican. We've got 3 Republican congressmen. Okay, we've only got 3 of them, and then we have 14 Democrats. Now, tell me how that makes sense when we have 43% of the electorate being Republican. There is no representation for Republicans in the state of Illinois, and that's not preserving democracy. And I love the question that this NBC woman actually asked Governor J.B. Pritzker. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics you've criticized the Texas Republicans for? And they've been given Fs for their gerrymandered maps. I would say even the state house maps, those are pretty bad. And Pritzker's answer was completely ridiculous. You heard it there. Then the Democrats, they've got this talking point that Republicans have been attacking democracy for years and years and years, really since Donald Trump, Golden Escalator 2016. Okay, they've been talking about how Republicans have attacked democracy. But when you look at this thing for really what it is, there are state lawmakers that are halting democracy and halting the democratic process of voting on legislation, not just the redistricting legislation, by the way. There are 18 other legislative issues that they are supposed to be taking a look at, but they're stopping those things and halting those things from being passed or on the behalf of Texas, of the people of Texas. And that is really undemocratic. That is really anti-democracy and attack on democracy. So, sure, it's an attack on democracy when you use the Democrats' word of democracy, their meaning of the word democracy, which is really, it's getting in the way of us being in complete and utter total control. That is their idea of democracy. So the hypocrisy here is just off the charts. I do want to read what White House Deputy Secretary, Press Secretary, my microphone's popping out at me. What the Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson said on X to Pritzker's non-answer. She said, quote, This guy is such an idiot. His comms team must really suck for him to be so unprepared for such an obvious and anticipated question. Yeah. Let's take a listen to this clip now. I want to switch and talk about how Governor J.B. Pritzker responded to the question of him running in 2028 for president. We all think that he has presidential aspirations. It's clear by his lieutenant governor pick that he has aspirations to become the 2028 presidential nominee. We'll have to see. Let's take a listen.
Very quickly before I let you go, do you rule out a run for president in 2028?
I'm focused on running for re-election as governor of the state of Illinois, and everything that I do really is focused on lifting up the people of my state.
But you don't rule it out, Governor? Yes or no?
I can't rule anything out, but what I can rule in is that no matter what decisions I make, and I mean in particular about what I do here in the state of Illinois, is about the people of Illinois. Indeed, any future decisions of mine will always be guided by that.
All right, very quickly.
Okay, so there we go. I mean, yeah, we kind of already know that he has aspirations for 2028 because somebody asked him a while ago about his lieutenant governor pick, why he picked that guy. And he says, well, the lieutenant governor has to do the job of governor potentially, like somewhere along that lines. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I mean, who says that, right? Like, oh, he has to maybe do the job of governor, so that's why I picked him. Oh, are you planning on not being governor anytime soon, JB? So, you know, that sounds like pretty like authentic, like not authentic. His like, I'm gonna do everything for the people of Illinois. It's not like, clearly you're not ruling it out. Like an authentic answer for the people of Illinois would be like, no, I'm not running for president. I've said that multiple times, which he has said. I'm not planning on running for president anytime soon. I am focused on my 2026 gubernatorial race. But he came out with a wishy-washy answer on that as well. Not only did he skirt the question of the hypocrisy with the gerrymandered maps, you're right, Lisa, totally skirted that question. He also skirted this question as well. So I don't think that Governor J.B. Pritzker has a chance to be clear, because the establishment really wants an idiot in there. Somebody like a Jasmine Crockett, somebody like an AOC, somebody that they can control. JB is uncontrollable. He is a very ambitious guy. And I don't see him being the potential Democratic nominee. I also don't see him holding much of a candle to the folks on the Republican side of things, even if for some odd reason the establishment says, yeah, JB isn't a threat, we'll let him in into the club here and we'll let him be our useful idiot. JB is not an idiot. That is like one thing I will say about him. I don't think that he's stupid. I think that he's cunning and ambitious, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Even the way he skirted that question, like, let's listen to that. Let me quote him really quick. But what I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is the violation of the people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. Okay, so he's being very cunning there, even with that answer. Like, it's skirting the answer, but he's being very cunning and manipulative where he's talking about voting rights. So again, it's this whole like equity thing. So here in the state of Illinois, what we've done is we've given the subsidized poor, and I mean, the Democrats continue to be the party of slavery, right? The subsidized poor, we gerrymandered to where they have way more voting power in these urban areas, and the rural voters, who typically happen to be white, they get way less of a say. Okay, these rural voters, farmers, they get way less representation. You only have about 3 Republican representatives, and you make up 43% of the electorate. And that's totally not fair, but you get a lot of the subsidized poor, the people like in those nonprofit organizations that have those jobs that go every single day and they lobby their government for more taxpayer money to secure their their checks. And then after they've secured their checks, they secure the people who secure their checks into office by getting out the vote efforts, right? And you could say, I won't even say that it's just subsidized poor. Like you could say that it's Black folk, Latina folk, people in the urban Chicago areas that they're trying to really, it is welfare, and the welfare state is just the new slavery. Okay. And that's what they've got these people hooked into, is just this welfare state. And it takes on this form of the nonprofit sector. And they get their jobs, and like they're getting the paychecks to do this job, which really isn't a job at all. It's just a fake job. And their job really is to just go to Springfield and sit there and scream in the rotunda. And then they get their, $20 for lunch. Okay. So that's like their job. But it's a form of slavery, because you are enslaved to the Democrat Party. And it's really quite sad. But what JB is doing there with that answer is he's being very cunning, and he's trying to say that if you read between the lines, he's trying to say that Texas is, and this is the Democrat talking point, that they're trying to take the voting rights away from people of a minority status. Okay, that's what he's trying to do here. Democracy is at stake. He's trying to say that, they're going to give all these rich white guys more voting power over you. And what we've done in the state is we've tipped the scales more towards you. Really, by you, it's the subsidized poor. We keep you poor with the exorbitant taxes, and we give you pennies, but we've enslaved you to us. Okay, so he's really working there. And if you read between the lines, it's quite genius, his answer. So I won't say that JB, like, that wasn't a stupid answer. It was a non-answer. He definitely skirted it, but it was very deliberate. He's trying to say that what Texas is doing is racist, but what Illinois has done is not racist. And we are actually evening the scales, and it's actually equitable, right? Because we're giving these poor people more of a voice over the rural people. And really, rural people, they're not rich. Okay. These farmers aren't rich. Downstate Illinois is very, very poor. They have just convinced the people in the nonprofit sector, like in these criminal justice reform nonprofits, they have convinced them and enslaved them to be foot soldiers for the Democrat Party. And the rural voters aren't easily as convinced. Okay. So, yeah, that's, he's a genius answer, really. Skirted it, but he's really trying to paint this picture that Illinois, the way Illinois gerrymanders, is actually pro-Black. Like, that's what it is. What the Democrat Party is trying to spin this, and they're trying to say that the Texas redistricting is racist. That's the direction he was going with that question. All right. And like I said, he can't hold a candle to the folks on the Republican side, even if by some magical, like some crazy circumstance where he magically becomes the Democrat nominee, which he won't, because he is such a threat, because he has ambitions, because he is a smart guy. They won't put him in there. Look at Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. Those are the types of people they want. Most likely their pick is going to be Pete Buttigieg, because he's a useful idiot. And he's like not incredibly stupid like Jasmine Crockett. And he's kind of like polished looking. So they might be able to swing Pete Buttigieg in there. I don't know, but any of them, like JB doesn't even, like, I'd love to see JB Pritzker and JD Vance debated out on a debate stage. All right, I got to take actually, that's it. That's the show. I appreciate you being here. Tomorrow, we'll get to a few things. I don't know what I didn't get to today. What did I get to? I don't know. I didn't get to a few things. We'll get to some of those things tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. Be sure to subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. Happy Monday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.